Hey guys, still here and welcome back to Transport Fever 2. It's Season 3, Episode 4. And in this episode I'm going to be starting up the line that I have set up off-screen, because it took a couple of years, well, not real life fortunately, but at least in-game, to actually collect the money to make this possible. What I have set up over here is the line that takes grain from Roermond all the way over there to Turnhout. This is an alcohol distillery added by a mod that's called Industry Extra. You can find it in the collection down below in the description. Once we have alcohol, we take that all the way back over here to the food processing plant, and then the circle starts anew. Now, once I have food over here, this is going to be a decent amount of food that gets produced, because one alcohol yields 2 food, as opposed to the normal translation matrix, which is 1 grain, or rather 2 grain is 1 food. You could argue, if you want to provide Weird with food, why did you make such an elaborate use of a route? Well, the greater the distance that you transport your stuff over, the more you get paid. That's how Transport Fever works. Don't ask me about the logic of it. I'd say the better, or the more local produced stuff means less exhaust, more local jobs, etc. But this is Transport Fever and this uses different rules. Now it's time to set up first vehicles on this route, and as the years have progressed, I have gotten access to the European covered horse-drawn carriage, and these things do carry all cargo at a speed of a whopping 20 kilometers an hour, but that is still 10% faster than the Asian horse-drawn carriages that I've been using thus far. So I'm going to be using these things. It's a long way. I expect them to be running a deficit, especially for the better part of the first year, because they're going to be picking up grain, but it's going to take forever and then some to take that grain all the way from the farm to the distillery and then back. Now, since I would like the way from here to there to also be supplied pretty well, I'm going to tie in this farm and just have a very quick hop from here to there, so that the vehicles here make sure that the farm is full, or that the alcohol distillery is full, and that I can then transport more alcohol back using the same horse-drawn carriages back here to the food processing plant. Otherwise, I'm still going to be running empty half the time. Now, time for the European covered horse-drawn carriage. Number 1 on the ROE line. No, this time around that does not stand for Rules of Engagement. It stands for an abbreviation of Roermond. That's 1. That's 2. It's probably going to take a fairly long time for me to actually get all the vehicles over here that I want. But once I have those, I can start to provide food to Weert, Helmond and Valkenswaard, which should allow their commercial districts to start growing and hopefully make interacting with these towns a little bit more interesting, so that I can also tie in Valkenswaard, Eindhoven and Helmond. I'm still trying to blend English and Dutch, and that's not going to fly. Try it and blend these things together in what could be a profitable, if short, bus line. For the moment, let's just keep buying a couple more vehicles as long as I have the cash for it. I'm pretty much having to do this one by one, depending on how fast the cash comes in. Sometimes you get large influxes like this, and that's usually when you quickly have to buy. Otherwise, the game immediately starts spending it on stuff like your standard expenditures, your maintenance, your, interest on the loan. All of that stuff is taking away from the money that you can actually spend on vehicles which make money. Now, what's the rotation speed of these things? 11 minutes. Right. So that's going to take a long time for these things to actually make their way from one point to the next. I'm quite curious how much is going to come in. Since this route from here to there is already 5,000, I think from this farm to there might very well be something in the region of about 20,000. I wouldn't be surprised at all if I could get that much out of it. Now, at some point, I also want to start tying Turnhout and Valkenswaard together, but this is a distance that's quite large, so a train over here would be ideal. And, of course, later on, I want to have more towns connected. I also want to try and reopen the lines in Antwerp. Initially, I had those and closed them down because all of my vehicles got stuck in traffic. Now, the traffic still hasn't exactly cleared up. There is still traffic all over the place. And, oh my god. Traffic, very poor. This road, that's not really a place where you want to be. At some point, I will get access to a bus lane, which I will absolutely use once it becomes available to tie these things together. Because I imagine that people want to get from one side to the next. I mean, look at this. This whole street is filled with carriages. They want to get from one side to the next in Antwerp or the surrounding towns. But the traffic might be throwing them off. If I can offer them a better alternative, one that is faster because it has its own lane, then hopefully they'll massively pick that over their standard vehicle. And that could result in profitable lines. Right now, as you can see, the traffic over here, quality of traffic is very poor, which is actually costing residents. It's the town is slowly dying thanks to the amount of traffic that's currently in here. Oh, that's quite sad. Now, at least road vehicle 112 is on the way and is starting to get closer to its destination. Running costs are about 5,434 a year, and as you can see, this thing has been traveling for pretty as much the better part of 2 years. Well, not years. I'm calculating in half years, 6-month periods. Still, I hope it can recoup on the initial trip. It probably will. It's just taking a lot of time. Eventually, somewhere around the 1950s, I intend to have motorized vehicles over here running on just your standard asphalt, tarmac, whatever you want to call it. And that should speed up the amount of travel here significantly. And same here. I still have this, well, financial triangle going on, if you want to call it that. Crude, oil, fuel, back. And it just keeps making money. I've upgraded some vehicles. Here's another one of the newer ones, completely by accident. And ideally, I would just upgrade all of them or none of them. Because they are 10% faster, these things. And that means that the slower vehicles will eventually slow them down. Now, let's see. 23,000. Very nice. Unfortunately, no alcohol to pick up. There's only one there. So at least this one, or its compatriots, which are slightly farther behind, might be able to pick up some. It's just going to take a while. Yep, there we go. We have 2 alcohol ready for transport. Now, since this line still has a lot of room for growth, let's get some more on here. I can also get the American covered horse-drawn carriage, but I don't really see too much of a difference stat-wise, except that apparently the Americans came out with this thing 2 years later. Anyway, I'm gonna stick to the Europeans because I am in the Netherlands. Let's buy another one. This line is probably going to be costing me a lot of money. Oh, actually, it's not. That's interesting. It's not even costing me that much money. Now, this could be a very profitable line. Simply because the distance is so far. It did, however, take a lot of investments. I wouldn't be surprised if the road from here, from the turnout distillery, all the way to here, because this is the road that I built, and then I also built this little stretch over there, but I think this was about 60k. This was probably somewhere in the range of 300,000. So it is an expensive investment that is going to take a sweet time to get recouped. But at least I'm already seeing the fruits of my labor. And hopefully, with enough vehicles, I can start supplying the towns, which will grow the commercial districts. Combine towns, or at least connect towns to make sure that they're all going to get their passengers transported, which will further grow the towns, and then they'll demand more food. And so forth, and so on. Now for this part, I want to set up another truck stop. This is going to be that short hop that I mentioned earlier. Provide a bit more grain from here to there, so that the horse-drawn carriages going back can transport more alcohol back. And that way they're, well, pretty much always going to be making money. Unfortunately, truck stops are pretty sizable investments at 73,000. And I think that I'm just going to deploy it as quickly as possible and not really wait until I have to build a road. Roads aren't that expensive, but it is another 4K. And Yeah, screw it. We're just going to go directly for the depot. Or for the truck stop here. I was very close. 70k. And then the game said, nope, I'm going to take your money and put it elsewhere. Come on. 38, 43, 44, 48, 57, 62. Ah, we're back in the negatives. Now, one thing that I have learned and that I find a bit different, and I still have to wrap my head around it. Normally, you need to have an end consumer for a line. Otherwise, the line just doesn't do anything. So, in this case, for the food processing plant, normally it wouldn't really accept that much cargo if it doesn't have a demand for its services. In this case, it wouldn't really demand that much alcohol, or any of the other ways to produce food, if you don't have it connected to a town which demands food. But in Transport Fever 2, that's no longer true. It's no longer the case that you need to have a final demand. Which means that you can just have a lot of food being shipped here, from what I've been able to gather. At least those are the comments that I've been getting. But I'm still so heavily ingrained, if you will, no pun intended, in the old system of still having to get a final demand for your service, that I always try to tie in, a food processing plant or similar to an eventual consumer to make sure that, well, that stuff doesn't go to waste. Now, I'm quite curious how much alcohol makes. I mean, it is just another transportable, so it's probably going to be about 15, 16k, depending on the distance and the amount. Let's see. Yep, 16. Well, it's not bad. The line so far is making me 22,000, and it's probably going to fluctuate heavily. At least the first couple of trips were profitable, and that's probably mostly down to that grain. Once you have that grain going, you have at least 5,000 that you bring in, which cover, sorry, 25. No, what was it, 20? Yeah, 20. And that evens out the operating cost. So even if they make one trip per year, they're still unprofitable. Or actually even one trip per 2 years. Ah, finally, cash. Let's get that truck stop up. Alright, you may proceed. And then get that road right there. Alright, very easy stop. Very easy hop from here to there. I'm also going to make this... Oh god, would I pick that one? Yeah. Okay, this is geel, G-E-E. Grain to alcohol. Unfortunately, I managed to deploy my truck stop, or my truck depot, all the way over there. Which would mean that they're going to be empty for a lot of the time. So it might be better to just deploy one here. It's going to cost me another 10. But 10,000 is something I can afford to miss. And I might also be able to use it later on for additional stops. Other lines that I have in mind. Alright. European. I need 32. There's one. Grain to alcohol. Let's see when this thing starts to wake up. Not as of yet. This one's connected and that one's connected. Yep. Perfect. What terminals are you using? Okay, you're spreading yourself out. Perfect. Oh, I could have gone with one terminal here. That would have saved me quite a bit of cash. There we go. We have a consumer. Turnhout Alcohol Distillery. However, it's not really asking that much, is it? Suppliers. Just the one. The Roermond farm is shipping most of it. 199. Right. Now, we should have our first bit of food getting piled up here. I'm not sure how much they can stash. I already have a truck stop. I just need to build one road here. Just there. And then a truck stop in the middle of Weert. And then I can supply that town with food. Truck unload. Well, it's pretty clear. You want that here. So that's here to there, right through the town. What color is that going to be? 1, 2, 3, 4. Weird. Food. Okay. They don't need that much. 27. So a couple of trucks would do the trick. Let's say I want at least 2 initially. Mostly to try and get a bit of cash. Oh, there we go. We already got 84k. 93. Be quick about it. Ah! Damn it. Alright, that is the Weird food line. By the way, you actually pronounce it as Weird, not Weird. Not saying anything about the residents there, but that's how it gets pronounced, guys. Also, something I've been wanting to tackle is that I noticed quite a few people are watching these things, but are not subscribed to the channel. Subscribing to the channel is very easy for you. Just click that button. For you, it might not mean that much, but for me it does. Because the more people are subscribed to the channel, the more YouTube thinks that there's interaction on the channel, which I believe there is, and the more my channel gets to grow. Now, the channel has been growing very, very quickly lately, and I would love to keep that up. So, if you can be asked, then please just subscribe to the channel. And, well, that's all you need to do. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, well, there's a bit of a common misconception about the Netherlands. A lot of people call this place Holland, which is not exactly correct. The Netherlands originally started as a bunch of provinces. And the provinces, well, I suppose you could consider them states, if you will. They were pretty sovereign in their own rights, in their own areas. They had their own laws, as far as I recall. They had their own armies. They had their own, well, their own everything, their own cultures. Slowly but steadily, they realized that that situation was not quite tenable. And this is as far as I remember from my history lessons, so don't nail me on this. As far as they were able to start to unite, you got the United Provinces. And that's eventually where the 7 provinces came from, which is what the country was known for, or known by, for quite a long while. And over time, we grew from 7 provinces to 11 provinces. And then eventually to 12. Because over here we have the 12th that's currently underwater. And provided that at some point I get enough cash, I will build, yes, I'll build this additional province, which is just one big polder, as we call them, a territory that's been reclaimed on the sea. And then we were known as, well, the Netherlands, 12 provinces together, which form as one nation. Now, over here, let's say this island all the way to Den Haag. I'm not sure if Leiden is still part of Zuid-Holland, but maybe it is. This part, so let's say from here to there to there to here, that is called Zuid-Holland, which is one of the provinces. And then the section here to the north, including, I think, Texel as well, although I'm not 100% on that. That's called Noord-Holland. So that's another province. Referring to the Netherlands as Holland would pretty much be similar to referring to, let's say you refer to the Netherlands, then how do I explain this? The Netherlands is the country, same as the United States is the country. If you would say, I'm going to Holland, you might as well say, I'm going to, well, insert state here. I'm going to Texas. Because Texas is just a part of the country. It's not the whole country. Nor does it speak for the whole country. But a lot of people seem to think that it doesn't quite work that way with the Netherlands. And to be fair, well, our politicians are not making life easier because they also refer to Netherlands or to the Netherlands as Holland because it's, I don't know, it's easier. It's something that has really snuck into how people know my country. But I always think it's a bit weird because we always talk about, for example, the United States or the European Union. It's a collective of states slash nations slash whatever you want to call it, and you don't refer to one singular item, North Holland, South Holland, Holland, whatever you want to call it, as speaking for the whole. So my ask of you, whenever you hear somebody referring to the Netherlands as Holland, you can now say that, nope, it is not actually correct. This nerdy YouTuber, who is actually from the Netherlands, told me that it is not so, and that it should be referred to as the Netherlands. Otherwise, you might as well call the whole of the United States Texas, which is just not true. Now, so far, the Roermond grain alcohol food line has been doing quite well, I must say. It's not entirely stable, but it seems to be hovering around 70,000 a year, which means that over a period of 5, 6, 7 years, I'll have recouped the whole investment on the line, and that the amount of money that I'm getting should be going up. Here, I was making 70,000, and that's including an investment of about 100,000. So I actually made about 170,000, and if you want to discard the loan, 270,000. This year might even be better because I have a couple more vehicles on the road. And Weert should... There we go. Weert has gotten its first bit of food. They, they require... oh, there we go. 2 bits of mail to be processed. I wonder if the newer amounts of commercial buildings are actually going to spawn with the mail requirement. Because it is part of the industry extra add-on that adds mail and waste. And... the commercial buildings, they should spawn a no, they should spawn mail. But so far, I haven't seen them do it yet. Alright, another car, please. I haven't seen them do it yet. But then again, this is the first town that I'm actually providing with food. And you can see that some of these commercial buildings are growing. Now, I wonder if we're going to see a bit of wild growth of commercial area, shopping facilities, relative to the amount of residents and workplaces. I wonder how that's going to work, because in the vanilla Transport Fever 2, everything grows at a similar rate. You get a rise in residents and shopping and workplaces. But with the, I don't know what it's called, the vanilla plus growth or something, that can be skewed, like I have over in Turnhout, where you have a lot of industry and just not enough residents. In fact, I wonder if the situation has deteriorated even further. 240 versus 201. Etteleur, 214 versus 249, so it's not as bad over there. But it still means that I will probably need to bring in more people, just to make sure that the industry can perform as well as it possibly can. What I can also do is build a very small piece of road between Valkenswaard and Eindhoven and Helmond to make sure that these things start growing. I'm just not sure if it's going to be required, because I don't directly benefit from that growth. I might indirectly benefit from the growth if the towns start growing and get more demand, but for now, I'm not that interested in it. Now we also have the grain alcohol line over here, the whole one vehicle, which is actually making a decent amount of money. Let's throw on an additional vehicle there. And these guys, there you go. They're now transporting 5 alcohol on their way back, which is exactly what I want them to do. That's why I invented this new line, making sure that the vehicles going back are always full. And that really boosts the amount of profitability from the grain alcohol food line. Now, I don't need to be overdoing it here too much. It just needs to be enough for the amount of alcohol over here to always be at about 5 or 6, so that I have a small buffer. And hopefully these vehicles with this line can still make a bit more. If they can make about 30,000, I'd be happy. I don't need to be making millions with this one line. This one has 5 alcohol, this one only has 2. 4. Okay, that's not bad. I can live with that. There's another 2. Here comes another grain vehicle. Off you go. The money is coming in rather fast at this point. It was 246, 247, 272. That's what I want to see. 103. The trains are still not really going anywhere. They're very, very stable. 20,290, 20,390. It's very, very stable. For now, I'm relying much, much more on these trucks to make money. And looking back on it, this is probably what I should have been doing all along. Instead of going for the initial investment in the passenger lines that I did. Because sure enough, it's an interesting way to make money. But, well, it's just not that profitable. At least not over short distances. Over longer distances, it becomes gradually easier and more profitable. But initially, it's just a bit of a money sink. As much as I hate it. Let's see, with the investments made, that's another 163 there, and I still made a profit. Over here, 97, I'll definitely be making a profit there. But I want to, yet again, buy more vehicles here. 3, 4, nice. That should speed things up significantly along these lines. Currently, oh sorry, that's the wee food line. 161,000, look at that. Now we're talking. Probably also means that there's quite a bit of food being stashed here. That I'm really not all transporting. And I might also, as I'm buying more vehicles for the long distance line, buy more vehicles for the grain line. To make sure there's always some alcohol. I mean, there has to be alcohol, right? Let's get another one here. I think I'm about to plunk down my HQ as well. I want to see that thing grow. I want to see what exactly happens with it. Now, if you don't mind, just a bit of cash, please. 77 minus. So just a couple of these things have to come in with their 5 grain, and that's going to yield a lot of cash. That's 23. There we go. Ching. Oh, missing out on a bit. There you go. The grain line is about 20,000 here. From Geel/Herentals to Herentals North. And the other one, way better. 111. Once you see those numbers, you actually think, yes, this is what I did that for. Look at that line. Very slowly at the start, 46k versus 21k. Eventually growing to 224,000 income versus 92,000 cost. I want to continue with this growth. Which means a lot more vehicles are going to be running around these roads. And this farm should have plenty of capability at the moment. Yeah, there's still a lot of grain that I'm not even using. So, yes, there is achievement. There is... Look at that. That's growth right there. 272, 350. Now, I did also see another profitable opportunity, but it's going to require a bit more investment over here. Zierikzee Oil Refinery and the Oudorp Oil Well. If I can deploy a not too expensive dock over here, a cargo dock, unfortunately it is expensive and it's going to cost you about 300,000. I can deploy a dock here, I can deploy a dock there, and I can send a ship just sailing back and forth. Ships have very low running costs. What I can also do is then take the refined oil and start shipping that here to the Middelburg-Vlissingen fuel refinery, and then find a place to actually drop that off, which could be in Zeebrugge. So I always have a ship running around with something. Unfortunately, the early investment to get all of this stuff going is quite high. And that's mostly down to the docks. The docks cost you 290,000, give or take a few. So that's about 600,000 just in docks. Then I still need to build a shipyard. Those actually are not the worst. They're about, well, by the looks of it, 108. I think you might be able to get one, yeah, here for 87. So now we're talking about 700,000. And then I still need to buy a ship, which is going to set me back even more. But this is another opportunity that I'm keeping an eye on. Oil well, refinery, end user. And the distances should be great enough that this actually will make me some money. For now, though, I got a lot of cash coming in. I need to be spending more. I didn't think I would be saying that this soon, but here we go. Nope, not quite enough for that. There we go, another 4 vehicles. 80 food, no, 80 grain there. How are we doing on the alcohol part? 28, perfect. Even so much so that there's not really enough room for all of that stuff. So let's make it slightly bigger. And that should allow me to fit enough to keep these guys supplied for a while. Now we're actually getting some growth in. Financial growth means I can also start to grow more and faster. And the next potential growth, well, the greater the distance, the better it is. The fishery... The fishery can eventually also be tied into this one. The food processing plant, but it needs an intermittent step. It needs a meat plant, or whatever they're called. Let's see, where do we have those? There were some of them on the map. Meat processing plants. Requirements. Sertogenbos. That's not really ideal. It's quite far away. Weert. That's the one that, oh, sorry, that's the one I'm using. Ham. Germany, I think. Leeuwarden. Or down here in Roeselare, which is really quite far away. Now, I also have the rivers up here. Could I make use of those by any chance? Are they navigable? Navigable waters. Yes. So I could send a ship from Moerdijk to Dordrecht. Again, ships take a lot of investments. Marble mine drops off to here, to Gouda Construction, which will require marble and stone. Is there a way to get stone here? Where are my stone mines? Or stone quarries, rather. It's not really a mine. No, that's construction materials, plants, products. Beveren, down there. Oof, it's a long way. It's not necessarily bad, because, as mentioned, the farther away you transport stuff, the more it's going to yield. And what else do they accept? Is that slag? Yeah. Or sand. That's iron ore. I'm also seeing a connection between this one and that one. And then... oh, it's the wrong one. This one turns oil sand into fuel and oil. Oh, sorry, to fuel and sand. If there's one along the river that I can use, then I would love that, but I don't really see any. No, not exactly. What else do we have here? It has to be really quite close to the rivers, otherwise I'm not too interested. They are navigable waters, but ooh, only just. I am definitely going to use these. But I might need a bit more operating budget in order to actually be able to make them deep enough for the ships to go through. And right now, I'm not really seeing that. I'm not really getting that. Anyway, let's plunk down the HQ. I'm going to do that over here in Rotterdam. Headquarters, build. And, well, there we are. I can also spruce that up a little bit. I have a lot of assets installed at this point. Yeah, I might actually, since they're free anyway. No, the Jifang are little outdated. Unfortunately, I cannot really deploy the older stuff. Oh, by the way, I'm deploying these cars. I mean, it looks nice, but they haven't been invented yet. Oops. Oh well. What else can I do? I already have a fence. Do I need a large metal fence around it? Or is that a bit too much? Get off my lawn. A bench that has a collision. I could put some trees around it. There was one that had, yeah, mixed trees. I don't want sugar maple. I think we do have the rest of them. Does that cost me money? No, it does not. Alright, so this is my little HQ down in the woods. Okay, that does sound weird for some reason. Right, headquarters established. Company score, 1. I gotta say the company score I don't care too much about. I care about my finances, and my finances are starting to look really quite solid. With 202,000 in the last year, or last segment. 291,000 this time, and it's time to start repaying some of my loan. Because the sooner I can get rid of this, the sooner I can get up to that 300, 400, 500, and eventually millions. But that's something for a different day in a different episode. For now, I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe, and I shall catch you soon for the next episode.